Hey friends, welcome back to 6 Hearts on 6 Acres. I am out here enjoying this beautiful, sunny, warm, slightly breezy morning, and I thought I would bring you along with me. I feel like lately I have just been so incredibly busy that I have been getting work done on my own and not sharing, just because I feel like if I don't get it done, it's not gonna happen. And so I think I seeded all of these without you. This is basil and cilantro and parsley and dill and carnations and straw flower and salvia, all different kinds of things that are going to go in my garden. And it's time to get all of these out of these channels or out of their little pots and get them put into something bigger so that I can either start hardening them off, like the cilantro and the parsley, or so I can give them more room for root growth back in my basement. So I am going to bring you along with me as I do this, but this video is also going to be a compilation of all of my 2024 garden tours. If you are like me, the spring fever has hit you so hard and I just want all of the garden inspiration I can get, and so I thought this would be a great way to, one, show you what I'm doing in the garden right now, but two, show you where this garden is going to be months from now, give you some inspiration for your own garden, and hopefully appease a little bit of that spring fever that I think everybody has going on right now. My chickens are noisy this morning. It is laying time apparently. So you're going to hear lots of egg songs, lots of roosters crowing, lots of bird chirping, but just enjoy it. Like, there is not a better sound, in my opinion anyways. Last night I worked in my basement and I got almost all of my peppers up potted. So I took them out of these little, I don't even know what size they are, maybe 2-inch containers, and put them into my big 3-inch pots from Bootstrap Farmer. And so I have all of these empty containers. Some of them still have soil if the pepper didn't have a ton of roots or if nothing germinated in that spot. What you doing, Chris? So I'm just going to reuse these today because, like I said, the herbs that are going to go out in the garden in just a couple days, they don't need to go into a giant pot and waste a ton of soil. And the herbs that are small, like basil, they don't need to go into a giant pot either. I'm just going to reuse these and even reuse the soil that's already in some of them. I'm opening up a new package of Pro Mix. I have been going through this stuff lately. This is my favorite seed starting mix. It's actually called like a garden mix, but I use it to start seeds and it works perfectly. I feel like it's a great value for the amount of mixture that you get, and it just works really well to start my seeds and to up pot them as well. We are going to start with this tray of seedlings. I planted these in what is called the channel method, and this is actually the first time I've done it like this. I had a ton of seeds to start. I didn't have a ton of motivation to get it done that day to fill tons of trays, so I thought, you know what? I'm going to try this and see how it works. You can see that I kind of have mixed results. My straw flower did excellent. My carnations did excellent. I only got one germination from my apricot asters. I got several here of gomphrena, but not nearly as many as I seeded. I only got one Rose Rhapsody salvia, but I got a lot of Serious Blue salvia. But in the other trays that I did this method as well, I had great germination. So I think this was probably a seed issue. None of these seeds were new this year except this straw flower. Actually, this wasn't a new straw flower, but this Rosley Reason was. I'm assuming that my asters just were getting old. I've had them for several years. And I don't know what's going on with that Rose Rhapsody Salvia. I got one giant seedling out of it, but no others. Actually, I see a few little babies maybe starting here, so maybe they just take a really long time to start. Once I transplant my seedlings out of here, I think I'll stick this back in my basement under the lights and just see what continues to happen there. I have found the best way to do this is just with a spoon and kind of scoop out a portion of that channel. And then you can separate your seedlings out. These are the Rosley Reason straw flower. They are just a mixture. I absolutely love straw flowers. I think they're so pretty and they add so much beauty and height to your garden. They are something that I will always grow. This is a new variety for me though this year, and so I hope that it does really well. I have so many that germinated that I'm just going to take all the biggest and the best, and I will put the rest of these into my compost. We are about 4 weeks away from our average last frost, so this will be their home until it is time to go into the garden. King size silver rose straw flowers. Again, I'm just going to take a scoop and I'm going to pick the biggest and the best ones. I'm gonna finish up potting all of these plants here, and then we're gonna walk through the garden and see what it looks like today. Have a quick little March garden tour. There's not a ton to show you yet, but huge changes are happening soon. So I'm also gonna load all of the 2024 garden season onto this video so you can take a walk through memory lane and hopefully join me back for this year's 2025 garden season. This is the current front view of the garden. Doesn't look like a whole lot is going on yet, and there's not, but just wait. I think first we're going to talk about all the things that overwintered. So first is this beautiful yarrow. These have the prettiest flowers. Not only did it overwinter, but if we come to this one over here in the garden, I had two planted here, and you can tell like they're coming back to life. They don't look near as nice as that one in the front of the garden, but just look in the bed. Look at all of these yarrow seedlings that are everywhere. So I am going to remove a lot of those yarrow seedlings because these plants get huge. I'm going to give some to my mom and my sister and friends, but the rest I'm just going to put into my compost pile because as much as I love the yarrow flowers, I don't want a whole garden of yarrow. Next in this bed are onions. I put onions in multiple beds. I like to just put them around the edge and kind of line the garden with them. They don't take up a ton of room that way, and they're a great pest repellent. The next thing that came back for me this year, or not came back, but overwintered, is parsley. Parsley has never overwintered in my garden before, so I was super excited to have that happen, and that plant looks so healthy and beautiful. I'm going to be able to harvest a ton of that. I have went ahead and planted some snapdragons here in this bed as well. And then you can see all of my rows. These are carrots. They're not germinated yet. Again, my bed is lined with onions. And in this portion of the bed, I have planted beets, also not germinated yet. But look at my chives. They are back and looking absolutely beautiful. You see, I do have the seed packet hiding back here. That is because I seeded those sweet pea flowers right here to grow up this ladder. But I also seeded a few different varieties around the garden, so I wanted to remember which ones are growing where. My strawberries are back and looking beautiful. That is not a ripe red strawberry. That is a rock to hopefully deter the birds. Thyme is looking beautiful. It's of course a perennial in my garden as well. And this lavender is one that I'm super excited about. I just added this to the garden last year, and you can see that it's starting to put on some more green. It is a perennial here, but I've planted it before and not had it come back. So I'm excited to see this turning green again. Hopefully I'll get some beautiful lavender branches this summer. This plant is cracking me up. This is a Swiss chard that I grew last year. You can see like this stalk of it looks dead and hard and crusty. But obviously there is still life in those roots because it is just throwing out all of these little leaf shoots. The garlic that we planted together in October is starting to look really fabulous. Some much better than others. I'm not really sure why, if it's just the variety. Some are hard neck, some are soft neck. I just have a mixture here. This is really my first time growing garlic, and so we will see how it goes. And I spied yesterday my very first asparagus stalk coming up. I really need to get this bed cleaned out. There's a lot of weeds here. But I am really excited for a great asparagus harvest this year. This looks like it's a purple one. My rhubarb also is starting to pop through the soil here. Rhubarb looks so cool when it starts to come out of the ground. It's got this super crinkly look to it, and then the leaves flatten out. My sage plant is coming back nicely. This was a new addition to the garden last year. And then this tangly, wiry mess right here is oregano. It comes back every year. It doesn't look like much right now, but before long, this plant is going to be massive and taking up like a quarter of this bed. I think that is it for perennials. So let's talk about the things that I have put in the garden. Some are starting to peek through, like these sugar snap peas. I just noticed these this morning. They're starting to break through the soil. And things that are not showing any life yet are my potatoes that I planted. That is okay, it will happen. I have this bed full and that bed full. This bed still is empty because I ran out of potatoes. I need to run to my farm store today and get more potatoes to get this bed filled. And then I have plenty of soil to get it topped off with. This section right here is all broccoli and cauliflower, and they are doing fabulous. I also interplanted them with onions for pest control, but also just to make good use of my space. You can see that I have tons of corn stalks in here. This is where I grew my corn last year, and after I harvested it, I just threw the corn stalks down to be one, turn into compost, but two, to kind of block some weeds. So we will see how well that works. Once I pull this broccoli and cauliflower out of this area, I will go in with a second round of corn. Oh, I forgot a perennial. Actually, I'm not sure I can consider this a perennial. I guess it probably just reseeded itself because it wasn't planted here in the first place. But this is chamomile. I had two of these in the garden. I had one in my strawberry bed, which is hilarious because it did not reseed itself there. And then I had one over in that flower bed area right here. And I don't have any there either, but I do have some growing right there by the trellis, which is hilarious. Also, ignore that Coke bottle. I use that for watering. I'm super excited about these two new additions to the garden this year. I planted 2 blueberry bushes in these lick tubs. Hopefully that will allow me to keep the soil acidic how blueberries like. I went with 2 of these Chandler varieties. And they already have a ton of flowers on them. I know that you're supposed to take the flowers off for the first year, but I'm not really a rule follower when it comes to gardening, so I'll probably just leave them on. This section right here in front of my bed is going to be so beautiful. This is a mixture of varieties of snapdragons. I made sure and got them out really early this year, so hopefully I will have really tall stems. You can tell I already need to do quite a bit of weeding in this garden. Look how perfect and pretty they are. They're getting pretty big already. My plan for this bed this year, last year if you remember, I grew tons of flowers and sunflowers in it, but I think I'm going to fill this entire area with sweet potatoes this year. This year at the back of the bed, I went in with some red acre cabbages. These are really big, beautiful plants. Started these in my basement. Super proud of them. Also, they're beautiful. And then here I seeded some more sweet pea flowers to climb the back of that headboard. This bed has 6 golden acre cabbage in it. Here it is not up yet, but I went in with spinach and cilantro. I have tons of kale. We planted this together. You can see the birds or the rabbits or something is kind of picking at some of them. That is okay. As long as they have a good root system, they usually pick up and come back just fine. More onions. This is my compost pile. When I clean out my chicken coop, this is where all of that goes to break down. Here I have some romaine head lettuces that I planned on being able to harvest like as an actual head instead of leaf lettuce. But you can tell, again, rabbits or birds or something has really gone at these. I've kind of thrown sticks over the top of them to deter them. This is the only one that's still looking nice. This area I have seeded with lettuce, and I'm gonna throw some poppy seed in here as well. And that's it, guys. That is what the garden is looking like currently. I will make sure to bring you along with me for all of 2025 so you can see the growing season with me. But for now, let's jump back to 2024. This first bed I'm showing you is my perennial asparagus bed. I have lots of asparagus growing, and you can see over there I have already harvested several as well. This bed has a lot of weeds in it. Like I said, spring garden cleanup has not really happened yet. Connected to that bed is a bed that I have all of my cabbage in. I also have onions planted in here as well to be a pest repellent. And then within this bed, I chaos planted lettuce. Lots of different varieties of lettuce. So those are just kind of strewn all around the cabbage plants and the onion plants. These Ruby Perfection cabbages are really looking healthy and beautiful. I cannot wait to see these plants. They almost look like they're starting to bud up already. More lettuce. And then at the end of this bed, I have perennial rhubarb plants. This one looks really healthy, and this one just looks okay. I've had these plants here for about 3 years now, and they always give me enough to make one pie, and that's it. I don't know, maybe I need to move them to a different location where they get more sun. This bed has a tree right here in the east. So the sun comes up over there, and so this bed doesn't get a whole lot of morning sun. It gets midday sun and it gets afternoon sun. Moving on from that bed starts my 3 rows of cattle panel trellises. In my first row, I have a few raspberry plants. It started as one, but I just planted it last year and it has created several babies. And then I have a blackberry plant there as well. So this is what it looks like. You see in these 2 rows, I have compost where I'm going to be planting. There's lots of green in there as well. That's just weed and clover that wasn't killed as the compost cooked. So I'm going to have to go in and scrape all of that out before I plant. But in this third row, I didn't put compost in. And the reason for that is because this raspberry plant has sent off tons of little raspberry babies. And I didn't want to cover those plants up with compost for fear that they might not push through. We're really looking forward to a great raspberry harvest this year. And then just a little bit further down is our blackberry plant. It's sending out some new shoots as well. I need to clear out all that grass around it. And then walking into the garden, I'm going to pass those two cattle panel trellises, or the rows of cattle panel trellis. There's 2 cattle panels on each one, so they're about 30 foot long. And then around my whole perimeter of my garden pretty much is a raised bed. So that's where we're going to start. Right now, I have these lick tubs actually as the perimeter of my garden, but I am going to move those inside the garden this year. I didn't like having to clean up all the grass around those, so those are going to come inside the garden. Right here, okay, this is going to tell you something about me. I had these plants labeled really well as I was growing them, and I kept them labeled the whole time. But my container was labeled. I didn't have little stick labels in them like I do in my tomatoes. And I put them in the garden. I even sorted them, but I did not keep them labeled. So I don't know what's broccoli, what's cauliflower. I do know the cabbage because I put it all in that one bed over there. But I also have a few Brussels sprouts mixed in here. And I don't know what's what. And I'm really completely okay with that because my broccoli and cauliflower plants look very similar, grow very similar, and have very similar needs. And so once they start forming heads, I'm going to figure out what they are. And until then, I don't really care. My Brussels sprouts obviously will look very different because they grow tall and form Brussels sprouts on a stalk. And once those start growing, I'll know what those are as well. So I'm not super worried about it. I am kind of chaotic in all areas of my life. That comes with being a mom of 4, I think. Or I'm going to blame it on them anyways. I've probably always been like that. But anyways, this bed is looking super healthy. Let me turn you around and I'll walk you through each plant. So you see all of these, like I said, broccoli or cauliflower, I'm not sure. I also have them interplanted with onions for pest management. Those are going to help keep the scent mass to keep those white moths away. And then you also see, like I said, I have a lot of clover in my beds. I'm going to try and pull it out, but it's not something I'm super worried about. A lot of people plant clover as a ground cover crop anyways. I don't necessarily want it there competing for the nutrients and the moisture in my garden, so I will pull most of it out, but if I miss some of it, no big deal. I also have in this bed though tons of little volunteer sunflowers growing. Those are a grow one time, have in your garden forever kind of plant. I've grown tons of different varieties, so I'm not even sure which kind of sunflowers these are, but they are all over this bed. I am probably going to pull them out though, because this bed behind me right here is going to be a flower bed this year, and so I'd like to grow a lot of sunflowers in it. Sunflowers put off a chemical that can actually keep other plants from growing, but they are literally all over the place in this bed, and so I'm going to just pull those out. All right, at the end of this bed I have some more onions, and then I have a perennial thyme plant. I moved this plant from another bed and some of it didn't make it, so you see these dead sticks, they didn't green back up. I need to go in and cut them off, but a lot of the plants survived. I also have in this bed tons of little baby carrots all over the place. Moving from this bed onto the next. So I have this little space in between each of my beds. Life of a mother. Ignore my kids in the background. They are on the trampoline fighting. No surprise there. Somebody's always fighting in this house. But I want to show you in this little area, I have some more volunteers. And this is a borage plant. and I'm super excited about it volunteering in my garden because it is great for the pollinators. Borage is again one of those plants. You plant it once, it reseeds itself over and over and over. I had to switch to my husband's phone because mine died, but we were talking about borage and how once you plant it in your garden, it's going to reseed itself every single year and it will be there forever. Borage is really fabulous for pollinators. The bees love it. And bonus points, the flowers taste like cucumbers. So we really like to just grab a few and stick them in our salads. And the kids think it's just fun to come out here and eat flowers. So that's something that I really am happy has volunteered itself in my garden, and it will always have a place here. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next bed. This bed, again, you see a lot of clover in there. That's going to be repeated in every single bed that I have. But there are onions right here. These are the ones that I started from seed. There are lots of little baby carrots in this garden all over the place. This bed had some really great carrot germination. These are something that I just chaos planted. I did not plant them in rows. And then moving on to the next bed. Back here I have two really beautiful chive plants that are giving me some chive blossoms. And I am really super excited to use those in my cooking. I've already harvested a ton of those chives, but this is my first year to be able to harvest the chive blossoms because I just planted them last year and they didn't bloom at all. So those chive blossoms are just going to have a really mild onion taste and are supposed to be really delicious. So I'm looking forward to that. They are just starting to open up, so this week we're going to be able to start using them. This bed also has another thyme plant that I attempted to transplant, and you can see that almost all of it is dead except this little bit right here in the middle is all that survived. So I need to trim that plant up really well. And then right here is a whole bunch of baby cilantro. We love to use cilantro in our cooking, so I'm looking forward to that growing so I can start to harvest it. Again, in this bed, just like all the others, lots of little baby carrots, clover all over the place, and a perimeter of onions. At the end of this bed is more brassicas. Again, I don't know if they're broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage. This one has a little bit of sun damage to it, but the rest of the plant is healthy and growing, so I'm not worried about it. And then moving on to the next bed, I have a little bit of an open space right here. I'm going to fill that area in with my lick tubs. I left that open so that we could get into the garden with a tractor when we needed to. It was super helpful in laying all this mulch and adding compost to all of my beds. Ignore my voice, by the way. I'm pretty hoarse. I've been fighting, I don't know if it's allergies or a summer cold or what it is. My whole family's kind of gotten it, and I feel better. I'm not sick anymore, but my voice is a little bit goofy sounding. All right, we are to the next bed. This is one of my L-shaped beds. Let me turn you around. Starting this bed is two really big, pretty yarrow plants. Again, a lot of weeds that need cleaned out. There is a perimeter of onions. They're starting to get some good stockiness to them, growing really healthily. Same thing throughout all this garden. There's some carrots just kind of scattered around. And then we come to the end and we have some sugar snap peas. Those are going to grow up this arched trellis. Sugar snap peas don't grow super tall. They probably grow about the height of that T-post right there. Sugar snap peas don't like heat though, so once it gets warm, I will pull those out and they will be replaced with something that will vine up all the way over the arch. I haven't decided exactly what's going in that spot yet, but I have big plans for all of my arches this year. All right, we're going to go ahead and walk over to the other bed at the front. So we're at the front of my garden now with that L. The shorter part of the L began the front of my garden. This bed right here is kind of my middle bed of my garden, and it is situated between two arched trellises. In this bed are more sugar snap peas. I'm pretty sure that these ones are the tendril peas. These tendrils are edible, but these ones have way more than all the others. They are starting to grab a hold of this trellis, and they will continue to climb just like all the others. lots of peas, lots of weeds that I need to pull. I have 2 yarrow plants here. There's, again, little baby carrots scattered throughout the garden. I have a sage plant. And then that bed turns into this bed. This bed is attached to, let me scooch you back. It's attached to a really long arch trellis that's going to actually be extended even longer this year. It's going to add those 2 beds to it as well. And so right now I have sugar snap peas growing up the trellis. And inside, well, I'll take you inside in a minute, but on this bed we have peas. We have more brassicas that are looking really healthy and great. There's a few of them that have gotten eaten up a little bit. I am not worried about those. This one, you can see something's kind of gotten a hold of it. My chicken, I had a chicken get out the other day and he did a little bit of munching out here. Nothing that's not gonna just grow and repair itself though. All right, and then we come to this beautiful bundle of green. This is oregano. Oregano is a perennial in our area. And it kind of, look at all these oregano babies. It kind of takes over your garden if you are not careful. There's oregano everywhere. Connected to this bed is a new bed that we just built. It's a 9x3 bed that we're going to use to extend the arch trellis even further, another about 8 foot. And it's going to look amazing when it is full. That long trellis is going to be amazing this summer. It's got 1, 2, 3, so it's going to have 5 cattle panels, which are 4 foot wide each. So we're going to have a 20-foot trellis to walk through with squash and pumpkins and beans and cucumbers and what did I say? Sometimes beans, cucumbers. Just all of the goodies are going to be growing through that, and we're going to walk through them, and it's going to be so neat to see. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite parts of my garden. But I'm growing inside this trellis because right now it's getting plenty of sun before it's hot out. And once it gets hot, it's going to be shaded by the plants that are growing. So this is where I grow my spinach. You can see it's sparse in a few areas. I need to come replant that. But I have been able to harvest a little bit already. That's just a weed I need to pull. But I have gotten a harvest off of this spinach already, and it's looking like it could stand another harvest. So it's growing really great. And then we come to this bed. I have sugar snap peas planted on the edge because it is going to have an arch eventually that they're going to be able to grow up. I have a good stand of really healthy looking onions right here. Tons and tons of clover in this bed, so I really need to come in and clean it out pretty good. In this bed I also have a few Swiss chard plants. I thinned them out already, so I have kind of what I wanted to end up with. And I also have a few different varieties of kale growing in this bed. So I'm really looking forward to some kale harvest here before too long. All right, so we're gonna walk. We're inside the middle of the garden now. We're gonna walk towards our second kind of L-shaped bed. This is gonna be what's attached to this side of the arch trellis. So this bed has some oregano growing here. It's got lots of volunteer sunflowers again that I need to pull out. It's got sugar snap peas that are gonna be growing up this trellis. And it's got some really healthy, big brassica plants, either broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, I don't know. These leaves are about the size of my hand now. They look really great. There's a perimeter of onions by those, and they're looking really healthy as well. Again, like all the other beds, lots of clover that I need to pull out, and lots of carrots that I kind of just chaos planted through the bed. And then here is the front garden bed. Again, it has sugar snap peas that are going to grow up the arch trellis, and lots of brassicas and onions growing through the bed. So right now, since we aren't past our last frost, or actually hopefully we are, but we're not to our average last frost date yet. Like I said, everything in this garden is kind of the same. Lots of brassicas and lots of onions. But here in just the next, I think I'm going to be brave, be a little bit of a rebel, and go ahead and throw some frost tinder seeds into the garden. I'm thinking about starting my squash and my zucchini already. If we do have a frost, they would die, but I feel like I might be wasting less than $3 of seeds. But if it doesn't frost, I'm going to get a really early harvest this year and hopefully beat the squash bugs and the squash vine borers, which I always fight. So I'm going to try that and just see what happens. All right, I'm going to take you now to the middle of my garden. We talked about, and I showed you before, the flower bed that we built this year. I still don't have it completely built. I have the headboard in, but I have not brought the footboard in yet. So right now it has a side perimeter of onions, the ones that I started from seed, and growing up the bed is some sweet pea flowers. Those smell amazing, and I cannot wait until they start to bloom and I can bring them into the house in some bouquets. So here are the onions, again littered with tons of clover. This whole bed is. I just need to go in and scrape the top of that since nothing is planted in this area yet. I have 3 brassicas here. They're pretty little. They're not doing fabulous. And I have lots of sweet pea flowers coming up all along the bed here. So those are going to get tall and climb up this headboard, and they're going to look so pretty. The next part of the garden is over just a little bit, and it is new to my garden this year. It is 4 raised metal beds that we ordered off of Amazon. We filled them with compost. 3 of them have potatoes, and this last one is going to be planted with strawberry plants. Let me turn you around and show you those. So this bed is not planted yet. It's going to have strawberries. This bed I just planted yesterday with red potatoes. This is an in-ground area where we will be planting corn and winter squash. And then I'm going to do a row all the way down the garden of these lick tubs, and I'm going to put green beans in them to make them much easier to harvest without having to squat over. But this bed we planted together, and this was potatoes. And I just wanted to show you. They started coming up this week already. They're looking great. So that is the garden so far in the beginning of April. We have like a week and a half until our average last frost date, but we have no frost on the forecast right now. It has been beautiful, and the rest of this week looks beautiful. I kind of feel like we may be over our frosts for the year, I hope, but I'm not brave enough yet to bring out my tomatoes or peppers, and I'm not going to do that until the 1st of May. I want to make sure that they're strong, healthy plants and that our weather is going to cooperate, because I have a lot of work and time put into those. But I am going to go ahead and feel comfortable starting some seeds for squash and zucchini and maybe some cucumbers. If we do get another frost and those die off, I didn't lose a whole lot by doing that, and I can just restart those again, so no big deal. I'm going to turn you around and show you what the garden looks like from the view of my house. I'm going to give you just a whole walkthrough of the front of the garden, because I want to repeat this here in a few months and show you how much change is going to happen. Look how big these are. This one is huge. I somehow forgot to hit record, but look how big this broccoli is. I am pretty sure this is the biggest one I have ever grown. It is bigger than my head. time to cut this big cauliflower too. We just feed all these greens to our chickens. Damage to my pea vines, they're kind of ripping them off here. Probably need to just maybe get some twine and tie them up. They are heavy with peas and the wind is just doing some damage. I think this is the first year that I have planted enough peas that I actually get to bring them in the house and my kids don't just devour them all. That is a fat snow pea. They're good. They get like a string in them when they get this big. It's a little bit hard to chew, but there we go. You can pull it off. They're so sweet though. And they have peas inside. I want to show you what starts happening to peas as soon as it starts getting warm around here. They get what is called powdery mildew, and it's just like a powdery coating over the plant, and it starts to stunt it and really slow down its growth. Once these start getting that up about halfway, I just pull them out because I don't want it to spread to any of the squash or zucchini in my garden, and it is starting, so let me show you what it looks like. See how these plants have that? Just like, it looks like you put powder on them and it rubs off. That is powdery mildew. Show me what you got, Ella. Here, lift your head up. Look at all that. She's loaded. And look what I spotted today. My borage just overnight, ignore my nasty spray tan hands, but my borage overnight bloomed. This plant is so pretty and the pollinators love it. And once you have it in your garden, you're gonna have it every single year. This plant was self-seeded from last year, and it's really neat because some of these blooms are blue, but in this same plant, I don't have any yet, but some of them will be pink. Another thing that I spied that bloomed is this really beautiful yellow snapdragon. Look how pretty that is. And my pink one is getting ready to bloom. I started these by seed as well. More flowers showing off in the garden. And I also have these little baby squash popping up everywhere. I'm gonna harvest one last thing before the rain comes in tonight, and that is some of this golden acre cabbage. It is looking absolutely beautiful. We're gonna get the biggest one. I think we're gonna go with this one right here. That is a pretty cabbage. We're gonna have this for dinner tonight with the broccoli and the cauliflower. I don't know exactly what we're gonna have, but something veggie packed. My basket is getting full. Gonna grab some of this dill as well. And maybe a little bit of thyme. And a little bit of thyme as well. Also gonna grab some of this cilantro. It is starting to go to seed, so I want to go ahead and get some of it. Whoops, I accidentally pulled out the whole thing by the root. I have never ever seen that bug. I have no idea what that is. Does anybody on here know? If so, let me know in the comments. That's very unusual looking. I forgot I also have broccoli over here, and you can tell it is ready to pick as well. So we are gonna have a lot of broccoli to deal with this week in the kitchen. I'm probably gonna try and blanch and freeze some of it, but we'll be eating a lot of it fresh because that's my favorite way to have it. Also, these carrots are kind of overtaking my artichokes, so I think I'm going to go ahead and pull those carrots out. They'll probably still be really small, but the artichokes are more important to me than the carrots are. I think I can leave that one in. He's still pretty little and tight, but this one is starting to get a little bit loose, so it's going to have to come out. I am not strong enough to get that with my hand. Let me go get my cutters. Anybody else just leave their stuff laying around their garden? I do try to pick up when I'm done out here, but while I'm out here, it's fair game. My stuff could be absolutely anywhere. There we go. It's a good sized broccoli too. And this one is also very tight, so we will leave those two heads. Just take that one, and then we're gonna get these carrots pulled up. They're not as small as I thought they'd be. I am actually pretty stinking happy with that. Look at all those beautiful carrots. Holy cow, do you see how full my arms are? This basket is overflowing. I had a huge harvest tonight. I am so very thankful and so very blessed to be able to get all of this food out of my garden. I'm gonna take it inside, get it clean, and prepare dinner with a lot of it. The garden is starting to look really full and lush and beautiful. We come up to this first trellis, and whatever I planted here is starting to climb. I'm kind of laughing at myself because you will find out if you have been here for any time at all, or if you decide to stay, that I am not the most organized person. I have no idea what's growing here. Some type of winter squash. I thought it was zucchini rampicante, but it is starting to put on fruit, and they're definitely not zucchini rampicante. So let me show you what they look like. Could be maybe an acorn squash. I don't know. I am not 100% sure. But that is the plant on this half of the trellis. And then I'm thinking maybe this one is the zucchini rampicante. It doesn't have any fruit yet, so I'm not 100% sure, but I will find out before too long. And then following that bed comes into my beautiful cafe au lait dahlias. I have been harvesting these like crazy, and they're starting to put out a few new blooms. And then these right here are kind of funny. I obviously dropped some radish seeds when I was planting them in my beds, but they look like they're ready to harvest. They had no problem growing right here in the mulch. Those are big radishes. They're all a mixture of varieties because I plant from Baker Creek. It's called the Easter basket mix. I told you when I planted those, I don't love radishes. A few of you suggested to try and roast them, and I haven't done that yet, but I have several in my fridge, and I have these, and I think I have a few others that are ready to pick today as well, so I'm going to try that sometime this week. I don't have high hopes that I'll like it, but radishes are fun to pick. They're fast growing, they help break up my soil, and they're just something I like to throw in. They're very easy to grow. You see I have a I have onions kind of everywhere in my garden. They are doing really well and getting really big, and some of them are even starting to fall over. So those ones we are going to go ahead and harvest. Behind those onions, you see that I very densely pack my beds. I like things really close together for less chance for the weeds to grow. These are all supposed to be bell peppers. I started them all from seed, but I see here that I must have had a mislabeling because those are definitely not bell peppers. Those are some really good looking banana peppers though. I'll let my husband try them first and make sure they're not spicy. I am kind of a wimp. I do have some really nice bell peppers growing in this bed though. And I just spied some radishes back here that look like they are ready to be picked. Yep, poking out down here. If we follow that bed to the end, we come to this gorgeous bundle of yarrow. Look how big that is. That is 2 plants. They are from the Colorado mix. You can see if you look closely, they're 2 different colors. This side is more of like an off-white. Some of them are a little bit more pink, kind of peachy colored. And this side is all white. These are so pretty, and I've been throwing them into a lot of the bouquets that I've been making. I definitely did not realize how big they were going to get though, because I also have some basil hiding in here. The next thing we come to is just a big plastic pot. This was an experiment. So this is an orange accordion tomato. And you all know that I have had a lot of problem with herbicide damage in my tomato plants. And I wanted to see if that was exactly what my problem was. Because I just heard a lot of differing opinions. Even though I did talk to the University of Missouri Ag Extension Office, and they said that it's classic herbicide poisoning. So I went ahead and planted one of my tomato plants that I started in this pot with fresh soil from the store. And as you can see, we just looked at it, there is no curling, no yellowing, nothing going on with those leaves like I'm seeing in my rows of tomato plants. So that just tells me I do for sure have soil contamination with some type of herbicide. And in this plant, I don't. The next bed after that, you see 2 heads of broccoli that I am letting go to seed so I can keep those seeds and harvest them so I don't have to purchase next year. And then this broccoli, I am still gathering side shoots from because they're still putting off really nice tight heads. I also have some parsley that's hiding around here. That is just self-seeded. This bed also is lined with onions. And then I have my asparagus in here. They look pretty sad. I'm not sure why. I don't know if they didn't like the carrots growing so close to them that I pulled out in the few last videos. But this one still looks okay. And that one doesn't look terrible. But I completely lost the one that was right there. And those ones are just really sad looking. At the back of that bed, I have some okra that is starting to grow, and also lots and lots of weeds that I need to get out here and pull. Look how big this onion is. It is flopped over. So how you know when your onion is ready to harvest is when the stem goes from standing up straight to being flopped over. Let's pull this and see how big it is. It's in there good. That is a really big onion. Guys, look at that thing. It's huge. I'm pretty sure this is the biggest onion that I have ever grown. These were the starts that I got from Dixondale Onions. This is the 2nd year growing those, and they do excellent. I did start onions by seed this year as well, and those are just kind of scattered around in my garden. And they do look good, and they're different varieties, of course. But none of them are even close to the size of this thing. Following the L shape of this bed, we come to one of my last bundles of carrots, some cilantro that has all bolted and gone to flower. I'm going to let this make seed, which it is starting to do, and then I will just sprinkle those seeds all around my garden. Let's see on these carrots. I know that they are ready to come out of the ground, and I think some of them are pretty good size. Let's check this one. All right, tonight is apparently the night for huge veggies. Look at that carrot. We're gonna go ahead and pull all of these up, I think, because I don't want them to get too big that they start getting woody. That is really great size. That's a beautiful carrot. Let's see what else we can get out of this bed. Another huge carrot. Look at that. Just a small one. I love how sometimes you get perfect carrots and sometimes you get this. This thing is wild. That is a pretty good looking carrot harvest. These are, who knows what kind of carrots these are because I chaos planted my carrots all over the garden. But they are big and they are beautiful and they are going to be on our plates before too long. Alright, then when we come to my ladder, I have my chives, which I really need to just cut all of these down. That is getting very unruly, and just kind of let them come back fresh. I also have some sweet pea flowers in here. These things are beautiful, but I don't grow them for their looks. They smell so amazing. I wish you could smell through the screen. So good. All right, and then next I have two squash plants with a zinnia planted right between them, and I see some that are ready to harvest. Look how pretty that is. One here as well. These are, whoops, I hate when that happens. I usually harvest my squash and zucchini with shears because I feel like I always break them off at the top and it's super annoying. This bed has an assortment of peppers, and then I do have two eggplant back here. They're like a fairy variety. You can see there's one that fell that must have not got pollinated, but they are just really small eggplant. They turn this really pale lavender color when they're ready to be harvested. I don't grow eggplant well. I always get flea beetles all over them and they devour them. So I usually get just a few of these tiny little eggplant and that's it. When I was showing you that eggplant though, I spied this carrot back here. Well, there's two of them, but this one, can you see how big that thing is? Hopefully it's like that all the way through and not just at the top. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Was there ever a more perfect carrot? Growing your own food is so rewarding. Look, two of them right together. Again, I don't know the variety. I feel like these might be corral carrots or coral carrots. I'm not sure how you say that. Here's another one. These pepper plants are really putting on some good peppers too. Like this thing is huge. You can see how big that is. These are giant Aconcagua squash. I mean, not squash, peppers. And then that one has a few on it as well. And then I also have, what else do I have in here? My labels are starting to wear off. I need to rewrite them. But I have a few different varieties in there, and they're all starting to put on peppers. And then you can see that little batch of onions have all completely fallen. So those are ready to be harvested. I'm not going to get to those tonight. I don't have time. And it won't hurt them to be in the ground for another couple days anyways. Can you guys see that sky behind me? Look how pretty it is tonight. Let me turn you around. Gorgeous. Which brings me to my next bed. My dill is flowering. Dill flowers are so pretty. I grow them for the dill, not necessarily the dill seed. They always tend to flower, but they are just beautiful. Coming down from the dill, I have some thyme there. I have this stuff in my garden everywhere. It is called bindweed. I am constantly pulling this weed out. It does make flowers that are really pretty, but the weed just kind of suffocates everything. For onions, I have some beans thrown in there. They're not ready yet. I have a cheddar cauliflower that looks like it is pretty well ready to harvest. A white cauliflower. Another cheddar back there. Some more beans. And then this bed I cleared out my cauliflower and I planted in okra. So they are starting to kind of pop up everywhere. And then I just saw this, look. So that was a cauliflower, and I cut it, but I leave the roots to compost in place, and it is trying to throw up new leaves. And then I also planted something back here. These are either, I don't know if they're a cucumber or squash or a little pumpkin. Who knows what I felt like planting at the time. We will see before too long, though. That's what I always tell myself. This bed is about done. I have some cabbage that I'm going to be harvesting soon. It's just really getting too hot for cabbage. Some of those purple ones headed up and some of them did not. I've been tearing out lettuce every day and feeding it to the chickens. I need to do the same with these brassicas because they never did form a head. This one actually looks like it's trying to start now, but it's too hot. It's not going to make it. It's going to do this. Go straight to flower. A few more heads of cauliflower, just some scatterings of lettuce. This whole bed will be cleared out probably by next week, and I will do a succession planting here of probably squash and green beans. And then we come to my asparagus bed. So once asparagus start getting thinner than a pencil, you stop harvesting those. And I am actually seeing I have an asparagus bean problem, or asparagus beetle problem. That is what those are. And I'm seeing several of them on my plants. There's two right there. I've never had that problem before. So let me know how you treat asparagus beetles in your garden. I try really hard to stay away from chemicals. But if I'm going to lose my harvest, like with my cucumbers, I do a last resort and I use 7 Dust. I hate to even admit that. But I'm being honest, I do. I have a cucumber beetle problem really bad. And last year I didn't get any cucumbers. They give my plants bacterial wilt. They look beautiful and healthy one day, and the next day they are completely wilted. And I've already lost several plants this year to that same thing. And so I am keeping my cucumbers 7 dusted about every 3 weeks, trying to kill those things. I feel like nothing gets rid of them, even the 7 dust. I'm still seeing them all over my garden. So if you know what to do with asparagus beetles or cucumber beetles, let me know. After that, I have a pot of, what are these? Red Marconi peppers. They were ones that didn't make it into my garden, and they were looking pretty sad and super pale, and they were a little bit bug-eaten. But I threw them in here with a little bit of fertilizer, and they're looking much, much better. So hopefully they'll perk up and really start growing soon. And then I have these monsters. These are ground cherries. Ground cherries, if you've never had them, are a fruit. Let me see if they're kind of related. They're related to tomatillos. And they grow in these little husks underneath the plant. And you do not eat them until they fall to the ground. Hence the name ground cherries. They have like a really different flavor. It's like a mixture of tomato, strawberry, banana. I don't know. I know that sounds so weird. But they're really hard to describe. If you've never had them, grow them, because they are delicious. And they're super fun for kids to eat, and they're a really great garden snack because you can just pop them in your mouth. I've heard that they make really good pies too, although I've never tried that. I may do that this year. In this weed patch, I have so much grass here, and I almost don't even know how to get rid of it at this point. I feel like I'm going to come in with scissors and trim it. But these are my raspberries, and we're starting to get just a few to eat every day. They're really sweet. Let's see, how many will I get tonight? My kids race out here every day to see who can get them first, but we have been at the lake and we just got home. So it looks like I'm gonna get them tonight. And I don't feel bad one bit, because they have gotten them for several nights in a row. Or several days in a row, I mean. Yum. Those are so good. I feel like any food that you grow tastes so much different than it does at the grocery store. Like, if you think you don't like something, go ahead at home and taste it, because you may completely change your mind. I personally don't really like raspberries from the grocery store. I feel like they're pretty flavorless. I don't love the texture, but these things are good. They're sweet. They're kind of firm. They have a little bit of tang, and they're just delicious. Still in my weed patch, I have some blackberries. I am starting to get a few fruits. I don't have a ton though. And then we are to my tomatoes. This is year 3 for me with dealing with herbicide problems in my tomatoes. Anyways, I was saying, this is my 3rd year of dealing with herbicide problems in my tomatoes. And they are growing out of it. A lot of them, I feel like, they're still showing signs. They're still twisting there. The texture of the leaves is like thickened and not normal. But I have blooms everywhere. And those blooms are making tomatoes. So even though I feel like my plants, they're not perfect, but I don't know, I'm still really happy with how they're doing. They're still looking really well. Anyways, next up is my tomatillos. I think I only made it out with 2 of them. Something was eating my tomatillos, but they are starting to flower and fruit. So that back half of a row I have planted on both sides, and then these are 32 feet of cattle panel, so I have planted down each side of these. And I have blooms and fruit everywhere, so I'm super excited about that. But I do just still have really, I don't know, just not great looking plants. Some of them look better than others, but none of them really look perfect. And this guy, I don't know what's going on with him. I just need to pull it out. This is a purple calabash tomato, and it hasn't grown, and the leaves are twisted and look different than the rest. I think that that's curly top virus, which is spread by the leaf hopper, but it is not contagious to other tomatoes. I just need to get it pulled out. Once all these tomatoes start ripening up, I'll walk you through here and show you each of the varieties that I planted. But they're doing pretty well, considering. This bed in the front, I have started pulling a lot of things out of it, and I need to replant. I have one more purple cauliflower growing. So pretty. It was delicious too, and my kids thought it was really fun to eat. I have a lot of these African marigolds all over the garden. I have some lavender there. I have a calendula flower. I have onions. I have peppers. I just kind of have these things all over my garden, kind of everywhere. These peppers are really pretty. I don't know if you can, yeah, you can see. They have variegated leaves, which means they're not completely green. They're kind of striped with white. They're beautiful. They're candy cane peppers, and the peppers will be striped as well. We didn't get to finish our garden tour because my phone died, so we are going to pick up where we left off. We are in the very front of the garden in the front bed, and I think I had just got done showing you my purple cauliflower, so that's where we're going to start back. This is 2 days later. It is still looking beautiful. Cucumbers here are doing really well. I have some more cilantro that's bolted. And a lot of these onions here are starting to fall over. So we're going to go ahead and harvest those tonight. We're also going to get some of these banana peppers. That one could grow a little bit more, but this one's ready back here. Oh, we got a cucumber vine trying to grow the wrong way. We're gonna get it untangled from there. And we finally have plants growing up the trellis. That is some type of winter squash or melon, maybe. I don't remember which. These poblano peppers are getting huge. It is waist high on me. And it's starting to put on some flowers, so hopefully we will have fruit from it soon. And there we have some long beans that are starting to climb. This area is just really a mess. I need to get out here and get it cleaned up. Some more onions that are starting to fall. Oh, look, we have dragon tongue beans ready to harvest. Dragon tongue beans are so pretty. You know my love for growing something beautiful, and these are definitely it. Look at all those beans. That is just from the short section right here that is interplanted. Look at this with my, I don't know if you can see, but I have onions. They're kind of hidden here. That is why I stick beans in every single open spot in my garden. That's a lot of beans for just very little space. I know we are past the tomatoes, but I just turned around and saw these. Look how pretty these, I think these are queen of the night tomatoes are going to be. And Remember when we interplanted cucumbers with our tomatoes? I have one right here that is just thriving, and it's full of little baby cucumbers. I want to show you that if you don't have time to keep your garden free of weeds, I know that sometimes we see these picture perfect gardens and they're gorgeous and they have no weeds in them and they're perfectly manicured. That's not real life for me. This onion is ready to pull, and I just want to show you. Do you see all these weeds in here with this? Now, I'm not saying purposely neglect your plants, but I'm saying if something happens and you are not able to keep your beds completely as weed free as you would like, guess what? You're probably still going to have a very fruitful garden. That's a good size onion, way bigger than anything that I would get in a bag of those 3-pound onions that I usually buy at the store. And it grew in a patch of weeds. Speaking of weeds, right here crawling up the trellis, we have our lazy housewife pole beans. Couldn't have timed that any better. These peppers are Jimmy Nardellos. These are an Italian frying pepper. They're not quite ready to pick yet. They get pretty long, but they're really sweet and delicious. And then these beautiful peppers are called Violet Sparkle. Our Swiss chard and our kale are growing nonstop. We have had so many harvests from them, and look how big they are. I don't have a need for these in my fridge right now, and I really don't have room for them either, so I'm not going to harvest any tonight. The next thing we come to in my garden is this wild, unruly flower bed. You may notice it doesn't have a ton of flowers in it right now, and that is because I have created some really beautiful bouquets yesterday and today. There's still a little bit going on here though. We have some zinnias opening up. I have this chamomile that is ready. Let's go ahead and harvest it actually, because it is ready to harvest. This is my first harvest off this chamomile. I have some sweet pea flowers here. Those smell amazing. My sunflowers, those ones are getting really close to blooming, but look up here. That is my first sunflower to bloom in the garden, and it is beautiful. Pretty soon all of these will be blooming, and I have them lining the front of my garden and in this bed, and they're going to be so pretty. I also have a cucumber climbing up this footboard. It has lots of little baby cucumbers on it as well. Our sweet potatoes are doing really good. And all of these onions here are the ones that I started by seed. And some of them, the tops are starting to fall, so they are ready to harvest. These onions that I started by seed aren't as big as the onions that I started from the Dixondale onion starts, but they are a different variety as well, so that may have something to do with it. But this is a funny looking one. It's splitting. But for starting them for seed for my very first year, I'm really happy with what I got. I have lots of this red clover in here as well. It's just a weed, but it's really pretty and I like to throw it in bouquets. Some violet aster, some celosia, a whole lot of status flowers. And then when we come to the front, I have a cauliflower. Actually, I have two. Those both need to be harvested, so let's grab those tonight as well. This cauliflower has a little bit of a yucky spot kind of in here. I'll just cut that off, but there's still plenty of good cauliflower here that I will use. So this is currently what the trellis is looking like. Not extremely stunning yet, but just wait. So right here we have some cucumbers. Here's a good look at those violet sparkle peppers hiding in here. Look how pretty they are. And here's some of those Jimmy Nardellas that are quite a bit bigger. This is about the size that I like to pick those at. I'm not going to cook them tonight though, so I'm going to leave them on here maybe tomorrow. Then we have those lazy housewife pole beans along with a very tall sunflower that has a bloom at the top. That is a butternut squash. These, I don't remember what they are. They have a little bit of bug damage on them. I don't know if they're a cucumber or a squash. I always say we'll find out eventually. Plants are really starting to grow and take over. These are Asian long beans. These are really neat. They're like 3-foot long beans. I keep looking to see, oh here we go. This is a spaghetti squash. It is looking beautiful and healthy. Lots of cucumbers. I need to get these trained so they will grow up. I think these are the dragon egg cucumbers. They are. Look, here's one right here. These things are so good. And I actually, now that I'm in here, I spy a few of them. I like to let them get a little bit bigger, but even at this stage, these are delicious. More pole beans. And then I just put some seeds in here the other day. They have not germinated yet for a sugar pie pumpkin. And over here I put some cantaloupe. And right here I put some honeydew, which I don't see yet. And then I have a watermelon that's growing pretty good right here. More cucumbers. I just broke the stem on that guy. Hopefully he will send out some suckers. More beans. Starts of lots of more. This trellis is going to be really beautiful here before not too long at all. And then look at these. This is my first year growing these. These are scarlet runner beans. Look how pretty the flowers are. That plant is showing off. I spy a squash. This is a Brugosa friulana and it's Italian squash. This is my first one of that variety. And I spy back here some patty pan squash that are ready to harvest. Alright, I think the next thing that we come to is my strawberries, which I strawed and they have become overgrown with grass now. So I need to get in here and get those all cleared out. But I have been picking a few berries each night. They are really small, but they are still super sweet. Just one tonight. And then look at this massive borage plant. This thing was a volunteer and it is huge. Then we have a sunset calendula, super pretty, kind of getting smothered by the borage. I'll probably trim it back. And then we have another chamomile plant here that I'm going to harvest from. These are my first harvests from these chamomile plants. I started them from seed this year. My husband asked me to plant these. Funny story that you heard me tell if you were with me when I started these. He has shoulder problems, and he was reading about what I could grow in the garden to help him, what herbs would help. And he said, I'm getting a handful. He asked me, have you ever heard of chamomile? And I said, what? No, that's not something I've ever heard of. And I came over and looked at the article he was reading. And it was not chamomile, it was chamomile. All right, this is the bed that is attached to the trellis. Again, we are lined with green beans because that's kind of my thing. I throw them everywhere. Dragon tongue beans again, and they are also ready to harvest. Not as mature as the last bunch. And then look in here, this whole bed, all of this is jalapeños. I have 3 different varieties. That doesn't look like a jalapeno, but I started on my seed and that's what it said it was. I'm tempted to take a bite and see if this is spicy, but I'm also a super big wimp, so let's see. It's not. There's zero heat. It was supposed to be mucho grande jalapeno. I don't know what they are, but they're good. Obviously, those seeds were labeled wrong. That is okay, though, because that's a whole entire bed of jalapenos. Way too many. I do have some actual jalapenos that are ready to harvest, too, though. There's a good one. There's a bunch of small ones on here. Wow. Okay, I think these are the mucho grande. Look how big that thing is. I have mucho grande orange spice and early jalapenos. Do I know which is which? Of course I don't. But they are all looking beautiful. And I may make some fresh salsa tomorrow. So following those jalapenos, I have a volunteer borage. And then I have tons and tons of oregano. It is getting ready to go to flower. I need to get a bunch of it harvested this week before it does that. I have some more sunset calendula back there. I have some parsley. I did have some rosemary in here as well. It has gotten lost in this patch. Of course, more beans. Because like I said, I throw them everywhere. Oh, these are yellow beans. These are, I think they were called Top Notch. I have a massive, look at this, cauliflower. It is ready to harvest tonight as well. Let's get this out of here. I'm going to need my cutters for that, babe. We're going to do that in just a minute. Let's keep going. I kind of have this bed cleared. This had a lot of cauliflower in it, and I took them out, and I ended up having to replant a lot of my trellis because they were being smothered by how big the cauliflower got. So didn't want to put anything in here until everything was established that was growing up the trellis. I will be putting beans in here though once I get this bed cleared out. I also threw some sweet potatoes in here. More onions. This sage plant is thriving. Look how big it is. I bought that as a start from the store and it has grown so much. This is another bed of peppers. It has paprika peppers in it, and they are really putting on. And they're really tall too. They are like past my belly button. I'm 5'3". I have more cucumbers that are going to be growing up this arch. And down here, look what I have. Friends, if you have friends with bunnies, get a hold of them and get some of their poop, because this is the best fertilizer for your garden. I haven't got it put out yet, but I'm going to kind of spread some of this all around the place. and share some veggies and some flowers with my friend that shared the poop with me. Only will a gardener say thank you so much for giving me poop. All right, we are almost done. These are my potatoes. You can see they are getting a little bit diseased and sickly looking. You can also see that we've harvested several. We do a bucket list every single year, and one of the things on our bucket list is that my kids get to make dinner all by themselves. All 4 of them, they picked out a cookbook and they made dinner tonight. So they came out and harvested some of those potatoes for what they were making. I will show that to you as soon as it comes out of the oven. It looked really good. My kids are 12, 9, 7, and 5, so they do decently well in the kitchen, especially with my 12-year-old leading them. They came out here and picked potatoes, onions, and green beans. I think that was it. Potatoes, onions, and green beans for their dinner tonight, and I can't wait to try it. Also, it gives me a night off, and they think it's so much fun. Part of the rules are that they have to clean the kitchen when they're done, so pretty much night off for mom. Here is another box of potatoes. And then here is my corn. It looks so good. I haven't grown corn in years. I've grown popcorn a few times, but not actual. This is sweet corn, peaches and cream. Let me show you. This corn is, it is taller than I am. It has half of it, this side over here has blown over twice, but it has stood back up on its own. I don't see any ears yet, but it is exceeding my expectations and looks really beautiful. And then the last bed over here is another bed of potatoes. You can see again, I have some disease going. We had gotten a lot of rain, so I'm probably going to go ahead and pull all these potatoes out this weekend. Let's see what we have here though. I think these are the red potatoes. Do a little digging. Oh yeah. Didn't have to dig far at all. That is a beautiful potato. We're going to do a quick green bean harvest while we're out here tonight as well, and then I think we are finished up. I watered the garden this morning, so it should be good to go. We are having hot, sunny days, but the garden is well watered, and so it should be just really exploding with growth. Hey guys, I'm Bree from 6 Hearts on 6 Acres. Welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome for the first time. I'm so glad to have you. I just showed you a huge harvest. I got all of that out of the garden this morning, and I want to show you the garden now, give you a tour of where all of that food comes from. I garden in my backyard. I have 6 acres, but I use a very small portion of it for my garden. This garden provides my family hundreds and hundreds of pounds of food throughout the spring, summer, and fall. I have kept up with garden tours now. I think I started them in either March or April. So go back and watch every single month and see how the garden has changed. It's pretty amazing, even just month from month, how much change there is. I'm ready to show you the garden though, so let's go. This first trellis that we just walked through is quite the stunner. The biggest plant on here is zucchini rampicante. They are these just massive. Can you see how big that is? Massive zucchini. You can eat them. This is still considered young at this stage, and they are like a tender zucchini replacement. The great thing is though, from here all the way down until you get to this big bulbous part, there are no seeds. These are awesome for shredding for zucchini bread. They do great being frozen. They're great fried zucchini. They're great baked. We eat this every single way, and if you leave it on the vine, it's going to turn a really pretty orange hue, and then at that point it tastes really similar to a butternut squash, and it has really good storage properties. I still have some of these fruits in my basement from my garden last year. That's how well that they store. Also, this plant is vine borer resistant if you have a problem with those bugs in your garden like I do. The front of this trellis has sweet dumpling squash on them. There are only 2 that I have found so far. I have this one right here and then one down towards the bottom. So I'm hoping it will be more productive and put on several more fruits, but if not, I'll take what I get and eat the 2 of them. On this other side of the trellis, still actually looks like zucchini rampicante because it has climbed all the way up and over. But what this side started out as is cucumbers. I have 1 plant left. The rest have been taken out by cucumber beetles. It's hanging on there, but it's not giving me any fruit at the moment. But I also have rattlesnake beans. These have been so productive and have given me tons and tons of food. I'm going to plant another succession of those for the fall, so they will just keep on going. Although not here, because this trellis is full. If you turn around and look at my garden from this point, it looks vastly different than it did during the last garden tour. These beds, the 3 in the front, are empty. The corn has been taken down. The green bean tubs have nothing in them. All of that is because I have started preparing my garden for a fall planting. So these 3 metal tubs here had potatoes in them. We have harvested them all. Go back and watch those videos if you haven't seen so far. We got a huge amount of food. Currently, this first bed is not planted yet. It's going to be happening sometime this week. Fingers crossed, that's my plan. This second bed, I put in a whole planting of beets, and they just sprouted. Let me show you. In the corner of the 3rd bed, you can kind of see it from here, I planted some pumpkins, but the rest of that bed is empty right now. I'm still debating in my mind what I want to do. My strawberries are putting off a ton of runners. I have thought about taking those runners and planting them in that bed, so then I'll have 2 beds of strawberries, which I will be very thankful for come spring. But I've also thought about putting another round of cucumbers in there. I am so undecided. But this first bed that is empty, I'm going to be putting in some soup beans. We will let those dry on the vine, and then we can use them all winter long in our soups. And then the corn patch. So you were with me when we took all of that down. I went in it's probably been 2 days ago now, and I planted it with some butterbush squash. They are a smaller variety of butternut squash that grow into more of a bush habit than vining. They do still vine, just not quite as big. Those have not germinated yet, so there's nothing there to show you, but hopefully soon. I ran to the farm store this morning. It's getting bright out here. I ran to the farm store this morning and picked up a big bag of Blue Lake bush beans, and I'm going to do a replanting of all of these buckets so I have them for the fall. I hope to get to that tonight, but if I don't, I'm going to do it on Monday. Here beside the trellis are my paprika peppers. These things have gotten so tall. They are taller than I am, a lot of them at this point, and incredibly productive. I have been doing a big harvest of those every single day, and then at the end of the week I throw them on my smoker and then into my dehydrator, and I'm gathering them up into quart-sized bags so that I can make my own smoked paprika powder at the end of the season. I plan on doing that with a coffee grinder. I'm just going to pack all of the dehydrated peppers in there and run it through until it turns into a powder. I also have my sage plant down here, and it is just beautiful and bigger every single time I look at it. I have harvested this plant twice for dehydrating, and it just keeps putting on more and more, and it smells so good. These leaves are so pretty too. Following that bed, I replanted here 3 squash and zucchini. I don't remember what varieties I put in. I'll tell you when they start to produce. And then that is my tall trellis. These are purple potted pole beans, and they just keep giving and giving. Following this bed down, I have another zucchini rampicante plant. You can see some of the fruit here hanging in the trellis. I have some parsley and some oregano and some rosemary hiding in here. And then I have all of my jalapeños in this bed. My plants are just looking so beautiful, and they just keep blooming and blooming. I'm going to have a great harvest this year. These, I think, are scarlet runner beans, and you can see how beautiful the flowers are. The hummingbirds absolutely love this plant. It is not uncommon for me to see 4 or 5 of them out here in the flowers just constantly. But I will say that I have gotten very, very few, like maybe 3 beans off of it. It's not been productive as far as food in the garden at all. I do see now that I am getting a few beans. Let me show you. It is starting to put a few beans on. I don't know if it doesn't like my weather here or what. This is the first time I've grown it. Actually, now that I'm sitting here looking at it, I am finally starting to see beans being produced. Although it hasn't given me much food, it has really been great for the hummingbirds and the bees and the pollinators. So I will probably keep this in my garden, also because it's gorgeous. Look at those flowers. And look how cool the zucchini rampicante look inside the trellis here. Also inside the trellis, this has been another new bean plant that I tried that I won't put this one back in the garden. This was Lazy Housewife pole bean, and it has not produced a single bean for me. But although I am looking at it right now, and I just spied something up here. We harvested all of those last week because the vine borers got our squash plants, and that one is hiding up there. Let me see if I can get it. These are spaghetti squash. That was an unexpected harvest for today. This is the part of the trellis that we cleared out during our maintenance. And we went in with honeydew, and they have started sprouting here. So hopefully before too long they will be covering this empty part. Following that are our Chinese long beans. We have both green and red. More of these Lazy Housewife pole beans that have very, very few. These ones actually have a couple. But they've just been completely unproductive and kind of a waste of space. Another cucumber that hasn't died yet, but it's not doing anything. And then, like I said, we are in transition for fall here, so I cut out all of the kale that was right here, and I'm going to be putting a second planting of kale in this exact same space, but this time I'm going to go in with the dinosaur kale. Lots of Pippin's golden honey peppers. These are loaded. Dragon tongue beans here. I'm trying to let these go to seed. They're taking a long time though to get fattened up. There's a lot of beans on here though, so hopefully I'll be able to harvest a lot of seed and not have to rebuy for next year. In this open space here, I planted a row of Ashley cucumbers. I'm gonna thin those out and then trellis them up this opening in the trellis. We of course have our beautiful sunflowers. This is how tall I am, and then if I had to guess, I would say they were probably like 12 to 14 feet, but I haven't actually measured. More peppers in this bed. Banana peppers, Anaheim peppers, Jimmy Nardellos, and then here I have candy cane peppers. These have those variegated leaves and they're so pretty, and when the peppers are ripening they are striped. Like, look how beautiful that is. And then once ripe they go to red, and they're really sweet too. Like the perfect snacking pepper. My tomato rows are starting to look very, very much like a jungle. I'm getting tons of fruit off of them, but you can tell they are starting to get hit with some disease. I don't know if this is blight or verticulum wilt. It's kind of just scattered throughout. There's another right here. Overall, the tomatoes have been really healthy and really productive though, and they are tall, way taller than I am. This is the back perimeter of the garden, and I put in a couple cucumber plants here. They are just starting. They have not been hit by the cucumber beetles yet, so fingers crossed they stay that way. I have some okra in this bed. That is the second succession of it as well as a couple sunflowers that just volunteered themselves. My cucamelons have really started to take off, and I'm starting to see little signs of flowering begin, so hopefully we will... Oh, actually, look. That's going to be my first cucamelon. I went in with some more squash and zucchini to fill in this opening. My dill has all went to seed, so I have been harvesting that for all of our pickled things. I left this cauliflower here because I wanted to harvest seeds from it, and it has been there for months and has not went to seed yet. Another bed in the back. These are... Here I have some watermelon that I sowed like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I have borage seeds amongst the weeds that are just volunteering all over the place from this huge borage plant here. And then I have several different types of peppers, but the coolest pepper in my garden this year for sure is this blot pepper. They're huge, they're sweet, and they're so beautiful. Over here we have our ground cherries. They have gotten huge and are dropping, oh, that one just fell off, are dropping tons of fruit daily. No wonder it fell off. Gross. I also have this bucket of giant Marconis. I have a mixture of gold and red in this bucket, 3 plants, and they are doing absolutely great. And then my asparagus bed. This is a jungle this time of the year. I let my asparagus grow berries because they drop these berries, and then I have asparagus seeds. These seeds plant themselves all over my garden, and I end up with just random asparagus everywhere. Behind that asparagus is my blackberry plant. I'm trying to grow this weaved through this cattle panel. Right now I only have 2 vines of it going, but this was from one plant, and I am starting to get a few berries. I only got like 5 this year, and the birds ate all of them, so hopefully next year is a better year for us. But then beside that, I have my raspberries. They're looking a little sad right now. I think I need to prune them, and obviously I need to weed around them. But I got several handfuls of raspberries this year, so I was really happy with those. I am embarrassed to even show you what's behind that. You remember that big bed that I had all of my brassicas in, and I told you probably a month ago that week I was going to get it cleaned out? Life happened, is busy around here, and I have not touched this bed. Well, that's not completely true. I come in here and I pull out a plant every couple days or so and feed it to the chickens, but it is a mess. Let me show you. So I have just a mixture of cabbage that never really did completely come to a head. They're still working on it. I don't know if they're going to actually taste good at this point. I let my lettuce go to seed, and then I'm going to be scattering the seed back in this. Let me see if I can show you. That is what lettuce seed looks like. I'm going to be scattering that in this bed, so I have a fall planting of lettuce. But that's what we're working with right now. It's a mess. It really needs cleaned up. I cannot even believe that it is already late July, almost August. This garden has already given me so much food, and it's just going to continue on. We are in a season of transition right now, getting ready for fall. So here again in the next few weeks, it's going to look vastly different again. I kind of love that transition from spring to summer and then summer to fall, because so much change happens so quickly. Also, I'm super excited because I started this YouTube journey with you at the very beginning of the year, like when we were still starting all of these seeds in my basement. And now it's the end of August, so I have been with you for an entire garden season. Here in Southwest Missouri, our garden season is pretty much ending now. You'll see as we walk through the garden, you're going to see lots of dead, lots of brown. Our first average frost date is October 20th. So although I still have 2 months of growing season, for the most part, my garden is dying back at this point. And so we're just going to walk through and give you a full, raw, real view of what that looks like here in my garden. So this is currently the state of the tunnel. It is pretty wild in here. I will say it's definitely not as full as I was hoping it would be, and I have some really big plans for it next year. But even still, it is gorgeous and it has a lot of food in it. So let's walk through and see what we can find. So in the very front of my trellis, there's absolutely nothing except a tree that needs pulled out. These trees are so hard to get out too. They get big roots. Anyways, I'm gonna have to cut that out. But what I did here, and you can see it, is I put in watermelon seed. But obviously I did this too late, and there was not enough sun in this area, and it just didn't thrive. I did have a huge sunflower here. I have pulled it out and fed it to my chickens because it looked like this, and they really love to eat those sunflower seeds. But it was just giving a lot of shade to this area, and so unfortunately that watermelon did not grow. On this side I put melons as well, but same as the other side, they weren't able to produce anything or grow well because of lack of sunlight. As you walk through this trellis, the majority of what you see are these Asian long beans. I have the red varieties, and I have green varieties as well. You can tell these are dry. I'm going to actually use these for soup beans. I'm letting them all dry on the pod. We ate our fair share of fresh ones, but I decided to just let these dry and put them back for soup for the winter time. You also see a ton of these zucchini rampicante. This one is nice and gold and cured and pretty close. I can still make a dent in it with my fingernail. Once you can't do that, they are ready for storage. I have so many of these zucchini rampicante growing this year. My storage is going to be filled up. I think I'm also going to cube some up and can them to use as like a pumpkin replacement. And then ones that are like this size and still super green are perfect just to eat as squash and zucchini. And since I'm not getting a lot of that right now, I may harvest some of those to eat this week. The stunner of this trellis this year has really been these scarlet runner beans. Let me take you to the outside. All right, from the outside of the trellis, you can see how absolutely gorgeous these beans are. I had thought about tearing them down because they weren't being super productive, but they are just constantly, you can see one right there, swarmed by bees and hummingbirds. And so I decided to go ahead and leave them, and I'm so glad that I did because they have the most beautiful beans and they make excellent soup beans. So when your pods are completely dry, this is what the beans look like. They're black with like purple specks. They're really pretty and they're big beans. But look what they look like before they are cured. It's a beautiful, the color's not even showing very good in camera, but it's hot pink. And it really just stands out against that green pod. They are so pretty. Now these pods are tough and fibrous and they have like a hair to them, so they're not something you would want to eat like a green bean. But these are going to make a really delicious soup bean for us this winter. If you remember back to the springtime, this trellis was completely covered in sugar snap peas. And although we love those and we ate and ate and ate from them, it really delayed getting the rest of this trellis up. And so the plants that I have in the beds beside the trellis were already growing pretty well. And I feel like they shaded out a lot of my seeds that I had put in. So next year, when I plant out this trellis, although I am still going to be planting sugar snap peas because we love to snack on them when we're in the garden, and I love to throw them in meals, I will be very much limiting those to probably one of my smaller trellises and only doing one side. I feel like that'll still give us plenty for fresh eating, and I don't really do a lot of preserving with those sugar snap peas. I want to use this trellis though as an area where I can just have like the fullest, most beautiful, I want it covered. Like I don't want any sun shining through this trellis. I also let volunteer sunflowers come up along the sides, and while they're beautiful, I don't think I'm going to let that happen next year either, because when they get full and big, these are multi-head sunflowers, they cast a lot of shade on the garden beds below. So I think I'm going to limit my sunflowers to the front of my garden, and then I haven't 100% decided if I'm going to do that flower bed again next year. I probably will, so I'll probably limit my sunflowers to those two areas. In these beds next year though, that run alongside my trellis, I want melons. I planted melons this year and I did not even get a single one. One, because cucumber beetles have been a huge problem for me, so we're going to talk about how we're going to try and get rid of that issue. But also because of the shade that we talked about. By the time I put those seeds in, when the sugar snap peas were done, they were just really shaded out by the peppers and everything else that I had growing in the beds on the side. So they're going to go out at the very beginning of the year, around the end of April next year, so that they have time to just really overtake this whole trellis and hopefully give us a huge production of melons. Honeydew is my favorite, so that's what we're going to do a lot of. But I'll probably also go in with smaller varieties of watermelon and that Kajari melon and just a few other random ones. I'm thinking this is going to be a full-on melon trellis next year though. As far as those stinking cucumber beetles, like I said, I have struggled with them, not just this year, but many years in the past. They take out any cucumber plants that I put in, and then they really do a lot of damage to my melons and my squash and my zucchini. And I've tried so hard to not use any pesticides or any chemicals in this garden. I want it to be as organic as possible. But I think because I have struggled so hard this year at the end of the season, when all my plants are out, I'm going to treat this trellis area because that's where the majority of my cucumber beetles are. First, I'm going to treat it with a few different organic options, which I didn't even use this year. because I still didn't want anything on my food. But if I'm still seeing beetles, I will go in with something harder and not organic, because anything I have tried has not. This year I tried insecticidal soap, and I have smushed 1,000 cucumber beetles. I've looked for eggs, but I've just been really unsuccessful because the huge amount of beetles that there are. So I am ready to just fully end that problem, kind of at all stakes at this point. So moving on from the inside of the trellis, coming towards the outside beds. This whole bed here is fully loaded with jalapeños, or what was supposed to be complete jalapeños. I'm sure many of you know about Peppergate. And so I have some of these peppers right here. You can see they're a longer pepper. Obviously not a jalapeno. They're not spicy. I don't know what they are. And these are what I used when I canned rotel. They taste good, they're crunchy, and they're really prolific, but I have no idea what they are. The rest of this bed, though, is jalapeños, and they have been so fruitful this year. I have made several batches of cowboy candy. I've made lots of salsa. I have done stuffed jalapeños, and I have done jalapeno hot sauce. So I've been able to make a lot of things. These are full and ready for another pick today. So they will be on my preserving schedule again for tomorrow. I do have a full day of canning tomorrow, so make sure to check back and come find that video. I'm looking to do definitely jalapeños, whatever else I see in the garden that's ready today. And I'm going to go to our local orchard and get some fresh peaches so that I can can up a whole bunch of those as well. I grew 3 different varieties of jalapeños this year. These are the Megatron. They are my huge stuffing jalapeños. These are my early jalapeños. And these early jalapeños, guys, are absolutely just loaded. I don't know if you can tell how many jalapeños are in here, but there are a lot. I also have a pumpkin spice jalapeno. I'm trying to find it. I don't see any of those pumpkin spice ones ready right now, but they are a pretty small jalapeno that are bright orange. They are very hot though, so I've been using those in super moderation because I am a wimp with anything spicy. Following these jalapenos comes to my little herb section. This is oregano. It's a perennial and it comes back in my garden every single year. These are oregano flowers. I also have just a random jalapeno here that didn't fit with the rest. I have some parsley hiding back here. And I had some rosemary in here as well, although I think it kind of got smothered out by all of that oregano. I want to show you these jalapenos. Look how absolutely loaded. This is just one plant. There are so many peppers on here. You see though how my jalapenos are all just kind of laying down. That's something I'm going to do a better job at next year when I plant, is to stake these from the beginning, because it's so hard to imagine how big your plants are going to get when you're putting them in. When you started them from a tiny little seed and you end up with this massive plant, my mind just never can. It doesn't matter how many times I do it. My mind can never like grasp hold of how big that plant is going to be and the support that it's going to need to stand up. So next year I am going to be sure to go in at the very beginning and put in stakes or tomato panels or something, some kind of support structure for all of my pepper plants so they aren't just sprawled all over the ground. Although they have grown fine sprawled all over the ground, they are harder to pick and harder to see how many peppers I have. So I really just want them up off the ground for next year. Following that, we come to some squash and zucchini that I put in, and you see I am starting to have squash bug problems. I have been out here just... Actually, that's a leaf-footed bug. But I'm pretty sure those are squash bug babies, but they could be leaf-footed bug babies as well. I'm not sure. Either way, they are a pest. And so I've been coming out every day and trying to pick them all off. I haven't put any chemicals on there, and I'm not going to. But they are all over my plants. So I do Maybe need to be better about coming out here more frequently and getting them all off. And look, I just saw something. I have my first golden egg squash from this planting. So we planted these probably, it's been about a month. I planted those in there after I cleared this bed from my broccoli and cauliflower. And so I'm excited to start having more squash and zucchini in the garden. Next is this beautiful sage plant. It has not been bothered. Like, it doesn't care if I let it get dry. It doesn't care if it gets shaded. It just keeps growing and is beautiful and smells so good. And then we have our paprika peppers. You can tell that I need to come out here and pick. Like I said, I have been neglecting the garden. But these peppers are beautiful. What I'm doing with those is smoking them and dehydrating them and turning them into my own smoked paprika powder. I got those seeds from M.I. Gardener. And when I personally think of paprika powder, I don't think of something spicy. But I will tell you that these are spicy peppers. I'm still using them like in my taco seasoning and in my cooking as a powder. But it is hotter than I had intentioned in my mind. While we're out here, I want to talk to you guys about these awesome boots that I have been wearing in my videos lately. I've been wearing them for about 3 months, 2 to 3 months now, because I wanted to make sure that I loved them before I showed them to you. These are high C boots, and this company was kind enough to send me these and a pair for my husband and daughter as well. I will show you those in future videos, but we all absolutely love them. This company is based out of California. These boots are American made and they are so comfortable. They keep my feet safe and clean while I'm out in my garden. They do not make me too hot, and they're supposed to actually keep your feet really warm as well in the winter, although I have not been able to try that out yet. But they are waterproof as well, and my feet do stay very dry in these shoes no matter if I am walking through mud puddles or watering the garden. These shoes have a 100-year lifetime warranty. They have great customer service, and overall they're just a really nice, comfortable boot to wear in the garden. If you want to order these boots and get a discount, I'm going to put an affiliate link for you in the description of this video. Make sure to use that in the promo code box and you will get 15% off a pair of boots for yourself. Following those paprika peppers, we have another trellis of zucchini rampicante. And you see a lot of dead and brown in there, especially on this other side of the trellis over there. That just happened this week. So one of my plants have obviously died, probably to vine borer. Now, zucchini rampicante are vine borer resistant. That doesn't mean they won't be taken out by a vine borer. But as you can see, they last a lot longer than some of my other squash and zucchini that I'm going to show you here in a minute. Around here, it's not if your plants are going to be killed by those vine borers, but when. And so, although that plant is dead, I was able to get a lot of fruit off of it. So I am totally okay. Let me show you how huge some of these rampicante are. Also, before I show you, look at this. This was one plant, so it covered both sides of the trellis, and then it escaped, and it is just covering. Look at all of that. Half of my garden. So this is a massive plant. And with that massive plant come massive produce. Look at this. This is one zucchini rampicante. It is huge. That is going to make a lot of food for us. And it's not like there's just 1 or 2 or even 5 or 10. Like, they are everywhere. And they're sprawling all over the ground as well. The next one we come to are our bell peppers. This year has been a good bell pepper year, but it hasn't been anything like last year. I am still harvesting lots of beautiful bell peppers, and my plants are loaded. Like, there's a lot of food in here. But last year, as I was getting them by the handful, and this year I'm only harvesting like once a week. So Big difference, and that's just part of having a garden. Some years are going to be really great for one thing, and the next year is not going to be so great at the same exact thing, with the same way that you planted it in the same seeds. I don't know if it's the weather or what it is really, but gardening comes in seasons, and some things will just thrive one year and not do great the next. That's just part of it. This bed here I did not get replanted when I pulled those potatoes, and it is currently being overtaken by the zucchini rampicante. Oh my goodness. I have been super neglectful, obviously. Look at this. I have a lot of work to come out here and do. The easiest way I have found to kill bugs when they are like that, when they are just completely swarming, my husband has a little handheld torch, and I just come out here and torch those areas just really quickly, not enough to burn the plant, but it kills all of the squash bugs or leaf-footed bugs or whatever they are. They will be completely destroyed, all of them, and I don't have to use anything on my plants, and it doesn't do any damage to my plants. So as soon as I finish with this video today, that is what we're going to be doing. Now, I told you we were going to talk about what is going to look different in this garden for next year. So I did really like growing potatoes in these metal beds, and I'm going to do that again. But I am going to make myself be better about immediately replanting, because I didn't do that this year, and now I just have this complete wasted space. As far as this trellis, this is the trellis that I'm going to do in sugar snap peas, and then when those come out, I will follow that probably with either cucumbers or pole beans. I won't be doing it with rampicante again, because obviously that is just too big of a plant to be held by that small of a trellis, and I don't want it sprawling across my whole garden again. As far as doing something different in this pepper area, and I also have okra growing here as well. The okra is really thriving in this location and doing great, so I will do that again next year, plant my peppers with my okra. But what I am going to do next year is try something different. I have always really packed my garden full of plants, and I haven't given them much space to grow. That's just how I've always grown, because I wanted as much in my garden as possible with the most variety. But I think next year I am going to give my plants some more room. At least probably, I'm going to do not half the plants that are in there, maybe a little bit more than that, but I am going to give them a dramatic amount of more space than I usually do, and just see what happens. That's what's recommended in the first place, but I don't follow recommendations just because I love to have a huge variety in the garden. But I'm curious to see, if I give them more space, if I will have much larger plants that have a ton more fruit on them. So we are going to try that out and just see what happens. I replanted these pots with beans for the fall, and they are, for the most part, looking really beautiful and excellent. For some reason, these front two pots, they only have one. Well, that one has two, but they didn't have good germination. I don't know why. I didn't do anything different. They had the same watering schedule, but those ones don't have many beans in them, whereas these ones are pretty full. I am really looking forward to a fall harvest of beans this year, though. In this area, I put in some butternut squash and a lemon drop watermelon and maybe a spaghetti squash, I think. I put these in right at the exact amount of time that they would need to produce right before our first frost. And the plants, for the most part, especially these two, are looking healthy and beautiful. So I am hoping that I'm going to get some food from this area. This is where my corn was growing before. And that brings us to this next bed. In this very corner, right here, or no, it was over here. And you can see I'm struggling with those bugs here as well. But in that corner, I planted 2 pumpkin seeds. And this is what happened. We have a huge plant I'm super excited to have pumpkins in the garden. I have never had pumpkins before, but I'm getting several good-sized pumpkins. And so I'm really looking forward to having our own. I don't even remember what variety this is because I literally just threw the seeds in there one day when they were in my hand. But there are several pumpkins on this plant. I have 4 kids, so I'm hoping that I get at least 4 pumpkins for them. Moving on from that bed, we have this orange accordion tomato that we put in. This tomato was just a test to prove to myself that I had herbicide poisoning in my tomato area. And it did just that. It showed me that the soil here was fine and it wasn't just my plants. So I haven't done a good job of really taking care of it, as I didn't grow it necessarily for food, but just as a test. Following that is a bed that has been not super productive for me this year. I have a good amount of parsley, and this was a broccoli or cauliflower plant that I was trying to let go to seed, but we have just been this is what the seeds look like, the seed pods. We had just been so dry this year, and I did not do a good job of keeping it watered, and so there are no seeds really inside any of those pods. I just need to go ahead and pull that out. This is also the bed that I put my artichokes in, which looked like they died pretty quickly at the beginning of the year, but they must have grown good root systems because I have 3 of them here that have started growing again for the fall. I'm super excited about that, and I'm really hoping that they will be able to overwinter and come back next spring beautiful and big and full, and we'll be able to harvest some artichokes. At the back of the bed are the most pitiful looking okra I think I've ever seen. I don't know what's going on with these okra plants. They're just small. The leaves are little. They are still giving okra, but just not very many. I planted these from okra seed that I had saved, so I'm just not really sure what's going on with those. Obviously, I should have thinned them out, and I didn't do that, but some of them just have one in a spot, so I don't think that's my only problem. At the front of this bed are Cubanelle peppers, and they have just really been giving us tons of food. We've been eating these for dinner a lot. Again, I should have staked these plants up, and I will do better to do that next year. Behind those, I have 3 eggplant. Every single time that I plant eggplant, I have flea beetles really bad. That's what that little bug is. This is flea beetle damage. But I have actually, for the first time ever, been able to harvest several eggplant. This one looks like it's damaged pretty good. And that one does as well. But we've gotten about 8 really good eggplant off of these plants. So I'm going to call that a success for me. Because it's more than I've ever gotten before. Now, I did throw some watermelon seeds and some melon seeds back here about a month ago. You can see they're still tiny and they haven't really done anything. I'm going to just this week pull all of that up. Pretty much all of this bed. I'm going to pull this okra. It's not doing anything. Obviously, I'll leave the artichokes and the peppers. But I'm going to clear the rest and replant carrots for the fall in this bed. The bed behind that has our strawberry plants in it. This needs weeded really well, but these strawberries are looking really good, and I'm hopeful for a great spring harvest. Beside those are our squash and zucchini, and do you see a difference? So about a month ago, the squash and zucchini on this side were dead from vine borer and from squash bugs. I pulled them all out and I replanted so that I would have a fall harvest of squash plants. And look, I'm starting to get some little babies on there. These plants look healthy and beautiful, and these plants are dead, dying, covered in bugs. So I'm going to come out here today, torch all those bugs, and pull all these plants out and replant. I have just at 60 days until my first frost. So I am really going to be pushing it with anything that I put in here. I'm going to go through my squash and zucchini seeds and find the ones that have the lowest number of days until they're ready to harvest and put those in there and just see what happens. Because sometimes our first frost comes late and we have a little bit more time. So hopefully that will happen this year. And next year when I redo this, even if I have some plants that are still going, I'm going to pull them all out at the same time and replant for fall, so that I'm not so rushed for time. And now I just have these empty buckets that are doing absolutely nothing for me except collecting horrible bugs. Olivia had her first volleyball game last night and she absolutely killed it. They won their first game. She got all of her serves. She's just out here resting and hanging out with Grizz until her game tonight. This bed is looking pretty pitiful right now. If you remember back to my July garden tour, there was a squash or zucchini plant right here that was massive. It took up this whole entire area and I couldn't even walk through it. You can still see the remains. But like all zucchini plants in my area, it was taken out by vine borers. This is what vine borers do. They drill a hole through the stem and they eat the whole inside middle. And you are just left with this brittle nothing of a plant that's not able to suck up any nutrients. Now following through the rest of this bed, these are blot peppers. These are my favorite pepper that I have grown in the garden this year, and it will come back every single year. They've been incredibly productive, and they're beautiful, which is, ooh, I don't know what that is. Ah! I'm not a bug fan. But they have just been super productive, beautiful plants. They're really sweet and really thick, and they work just as a bell pepper replacement. In between these next two beds, I have something pretty cool. This is a dahlia, and what's cool about it is that I started it by seed, but not this year. It was started by seed last year. And in my area, dahlias are not able to overwinter, but I didn't pull this out of the ground. I just left it there, kind of out of burnout and laziness at the end of the year, and it still came back. So I think it'll probably make it back every year because last year was a super cold winter. So I'm super excited about that really beautiful flower in the garden. Behind that is this flower bed that we created. It's looking a little bit pitiful right now, I'm going to be honest. My zinnias are still pretty right here, but they are starting to get some powdery mildew just from the change of the seasons. It's turning to fall. That's pretty normal, but we have made so many beautiful bouquets for the house. And then I have some really tall sunflowers. Some of them are still blooming, but you can see the majority of them have died off. I use these as food for my chickens, so I don't mind at all. And I will use these throughout the winter just to supplement their feed and give them something to do. I also here have sweet potatoes. And I've never seen this before. It might be normal. This is my first time growing sweet potatoes. But I did not know that sweet potatoes flowered. And these have the prettiest flowers on them all over the place. They kind of look like morning glories, but they're not. I made sure they are attached to my sweet potato plants. I was super excited because, like I said, this is the first time that I have ever grown sweet potatoes. And I don't know exactly when they're going to be ready, but last night I dug around just to see if there was anything in there yet. And I pulled out the biggest purple sweet potato. So I'll insert a picture of that right here and show it to you. But we're really excited for this harvest and to see how many potatoes we get. I am praying that there are more than just that one in there. This celosia is something that has bloomed all spring and all summer. It has just kept on going. We have some apricot status flower in here. Just some more zinnias. Like I said, they're coming to the end of their life. I have some snapdragons as well. They have bloomed on and off. And then more sweet potatoes back here. In this bed behind the flower garden, I have some thyme. Thyme is a perennial. Ignore all the weeds, guys. I keep saying that, but there are lots. This is a cauliflower, a cheddar cauliflower that I was trying to let go to seed. And strangely, it died, but it never did throw up seed pods. So I don't know what's going on with that. I have lots of dill that I have been collecting seed. For all my pickling, I have another squash plant that I put in, and then I have some more okra right here. On the back of this trellis, let me show you. From the back, I have a cucamelon plant. Now these are tiny little cucumbers, which amazingly don't seem to be bothered by the cucumber beetles. And they are little lime flavored crunchy cucumbers. They're delicious. Obviously, you see my daughter back here snacking. This is a favorite part of the garden for the kids. You can pretty much always find them back here eating these little cucamelons. And these okra, unlike the others, are doing really great, and we have been harvesting a ton off of them. That one's ready to go. So we are now on the other side of the trellis on this outside bed, and we have a whole bunch of these Pippin's Golden Honey Peppers. They go from this dark purple color to yellow, and when they are ready to eat, I don't know if I have any ripe on here. Well, I have some back here. When they're ready to eat, they turn this really bright, beautiful orange, and they are a really delicious sweet pepper. I have the strangest thing this year. These huge peppers, like, they are almost as tall as I am. These are poblanos, and they have been just really unproductive all summer long. I've gotten like 1 to 2 peppers from them. Until just recently, they really started putting on a ton of flowers. And now, I'm starting to get a decent amount of fruit off of them. So, these are still small, but in the next few weeks, I'm hoping to have a huge harvest of those. And in this front bed, I have the most beautiful and most productive. These are another new pepper to me this year, but they are one that will be in my garden every single year. Look at that beautiful variegated foliage. These are called candy cane peppers, and they start out green and striped with yellow and striped with like a pale, almost white color, and they ripen to this beautiful red. They're really crunchy. They're not super thick-walled, but they're not thin either, and they are just the best snacking pepper. And look at them, like they have just been so productive. They don't care that I have neglected them. And then here I have some yellow Marconis. What we come to next is our 3 rows of tomatoes. This time of the year, every single year, no matter what, my tomatoes get blight. It's just part of the weather here. We are so humid, it seems to not matter if I leave them full and bushy or if I keep them trimmed up really well. It just overtakes every year. And like 3 weeks, I don't know, I've lost track of time. Probably 3 weeks to a month ago, they were looking pretty sad. We've been super dry on top of the blight, and I thought I was done harvesting tomatoes. But just recently, they have just shown up and thrown on a huge amount of new, fresh, beautiful, healthy looking green stems, tons of flowers, tons of little green tomatoes. Now the problem is I don't think they're going to have enough time to fully develop and ripen, which I'm okay with that because we really love green salsa around here, like a salsa verde, but I make it with tomatoes instead of tomatillos. We eat through that on chips and salsa, and I also use it to make enchiladas, and I use it to do like chicken in my crock pot. So I love to can up a ton of that. That's what we will be doing with all of our green tomatoes at the end of the season. But this is what I'm talking about. So you see all this dead, just brown, crispy yellow. And then if you look up, look at all that beautiful, healthy green loaded with tomatoes. I also still have a lot of red tomatoes out here that I am picking. Not enough really to can every day, but if I save them up for the week, I can make small batches of stuff, and that is what I have been doing. By far this year, these Juliet tomatoes have been the most prolific from my garden. And I would say these Alice's Dream are a close second. I wish these Juliet were bigger. I don't like having to take the skin off of them because they're so small, but we have been using them in a ton of canning. And just look at all of these flowers. Like, they're just gonna keep going, and they are loaded with green tomatoes as well. I grow my tomatoes on a cattle panel trellis system. It is up off the ground about a foot, so they're about 5 foot tall. And these tomatoes have well exceeded that, but then they fell over, and so a lot of them I have clipped sideways now. So some of these tomatoes are 10 and 11 feet tall. You see, I still have lots of red in here, and I probably need to come do a harvest today. Actually, I will come do a harvest today because tomorrow is going to be a big canning day again. So I want to get as much out of here as I possibly can. This has been a good tomato year, but not as good, just like the peppers, not as good as last year. So I'm hopeful next year for an even better tomato harvest than I had this year. I don't think I'll do anything different. Well, actually, that's not true. I'm not going to do anything different with my tomatoes. I like them. I have them spaced out at 2 foot. I trim in the beginning and then I quit trimming until it's time to clean up disease. But I do a lot of interplanting of peppers and basil and cucumbers. And I don't think I'm going to do that next year. I am still going to put in my basil with the tomatoes. But I feel like my peppers don't get enough sun when I do this. So next year I'm going to leave the peppers out of that mix. We are at the end of the garden now, and I am showing you the good and the bad. These were my ground cherries. They are pretty much dead at this point. They haven't looked good for 2 months, and I don't know really what happened. I kept them watered. I kept them fertilized. They almost started to look like they had like pesticide damage, but they shouldn't have because nothing else showed that. And we don't spray anything here, so I don't really know what happened to those, but they are goners. And in this bucket here, I have giant red Marconi peppers. Now, at the beginning of the season, these peppers were true to their name and giant. But now, towards the end, they are much smaller. But they're still delicious, crispy, sweet peppers. I put 3 of them in this lick tub, and they all grew really well here. I also stuck some sweet alyssum in the bottom. My asparagus have went to seed. I just let them do that, and I end up with baby asparagus all over our farm. The birds eat these, and then they poop out these little seeds all over the place, and we end up with baby asparagus, which I am overjoyed with. We love asparagus, and I wish I had more room to make my bed even bigger. This bed towards the end of our garden is the one I keep telling you every garden tour. I'm going to get that cleaned out. I'm going to plant in it. Obviously, it didn't happen. My lettuce has went to seed. My cabbages never really produced great, and they're dying back. I've just been feeding those to the chicken. And this is some lamb's quarter that has gotten massive. But we finally have some cooler weather this week. It's going to rain, and I have a couple days off. So I have made a promise to myself that this week I am going to clear this bed and plant it with spinach for the fall and winter garden. This morning when I woke up, it felt like fall outside. It was so beautiful. The air was crisp. It had just the slightest hint of a chill to it. The grass and the leaves are starting to turn colors. Mostly probably because it has been so very dry. But also the leaves are starting to fall, and I just know that a change of seasons is coming. I had to go to work today, but before I did, I wanted to make sure and spend a little bit of time in the garden, take advantage of this beautiful weather, because we have heat again right around the corner. So I wanted to take advantage of this 60-degree morning and get as much harvested as I could. My tomatoes and peppers desperately needed my attention. I had some that were starting to turn because I just haven't been spending a lot of time in the garden lately. As you see, I had some tomato hornworms that I was dealing with. I am feeding those to my chickens. And so I just needed to give an hour of my time this morning to my garden to get as much harvested as possible and to take care of any pests that I could. And I wanted to bring you along with me. I'm going to be quiet for the rest of this video so you can listen to the beautiful sounds of nature. But I just want to leave you with a few words of one of my favorite songs by Joey and Rory. When I am in the garden and I am working with my hands and I'm growing food that my family eats and I'm listening to nature, that is when I personally feel closest to God. I have the quiet and the peace that I need to really think and to pray. And I hope that hearing this can give you that sense of overwhelming peace as well. But one of my favorite songs by Joey and Rory is called I See Him. And part of the song says, "'Cause I see him in the seeds I grow, I hear him in the rooster's crow. I feel him when my husband's hand is in mine. I taste him in the meals I make. I smell him in the bread I bake. When I look around, I don't have to wonder where he'll be. I see him in you, and I hope you see him in me." That is my prayer as I share this garden journey with you. That although I do want to show you my actual garden and teach you how to do the same, I also want you to see the love of Christ in me and see Jesus in me as well. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for being here, for being with me on this garden journey. I love being able to share with you, and I will see you back here next time. Until then, may God bless.